is the first session in a series we will call Fireside Chats, and I will explain in a second what Fireside Chats are. But first, to introduce us who are here today with you. My name is Ivan, and together with me here is Dino and Alex. Alex, you don't see him, but he is available as well in the call. I am working as a project manager in the core dev team in Astar team, and Dino and Alex are our core node developers working on Substrate, so programming in Rust and liking it, to make it simple. So today's topic is XCM features on Astar, but let's just give you quickly run through the agenda. So we're going to cover what Fireside Chats are, what are they meant to be. I'll just use one slide to briefly explain key facts about Astar, then we'll jump in on the XCM features and the Q&A. So recently we came with an idea and agreed in our core dev team that we would like to make ourselves more available to community developers developing projects on Astar Network, and this is the event that came out as output. The idea is for core developer team to share their knowledge and have the opportunity to discuss deep dive technical stuff with developers working on projects on our networks. The format will be basically about us covering some technical topics. It's going to be a theme. For example, today is XCM. We'll have various other topics in the future, and then have a Q&A session with you guys. The idea is to make your developer experience on our network better. Currently, we aim to have this in a bi-weekly schedule. So every second week, we're going to have this Q&A session with some special topic. In 1 minute, what Astar Network is. I guess you all know that Astar is the smart contract hub for WASM and EVM in the .Kusama ecosystem. We are Parachain on Polkadot, Astar Network, and we have a hidden network, Parachain on Kusama on the Canary network. What makes Astar Network different compared to other parachains? We are strong believers in the WASM smart contracts, and we are the leaders of WASM smart contracts in the .Kusama ecosystem. We strongly believe they are the future, and they would allow more power, more performance, and better choice of programming languages for all the developers who want to deliver some dApps and projects as part of the Web3 vision. As we speak right now, you can develop and deploy WASM smart contracts on our testnet Shibuya, and really soon it's going to be available on our mainnet. So watch close for this announcements. The other key fact about Astar Networks is dApp staking. You guys, developers, are the essential resource in making innovative dApps. So the idea for dApp staking is to have a chance for developers to get some incentive from the block rewards on Astar Network, and that way make your life easier and make your investment into development of projects on our network easier to manage. So of course we are welcoming you to come and develop on our networks and use dApp staking for gaining some existential income. And the last thing important about .Kusama and Astar together as that is the XCMP and XCM, and we're going to talk about it today. So I won't go into details here. I'm going to leave it to Dino to cover this part. But well, that's it. I think I covered my part. Dino, I would invite you to jump in and take the mic.
Sure. Thanks, Ivan. But just a small correction. I won't be covering XCM details since this isn't an XCM presentation. It's more like a technical discussion with the devs. So we will assume that everybody is at least somehow familiar with XCM. So just let me share my screen. And please confirm if you can see it.
Actually, for me, it feels like I still see my own screen. So maybe I'll stop sharing my screen. This would probably allow you to share yours. Just a second. There.
Okay, so now you can see it.
Now it works, yeah.
Okay, so again, hello everyone. Alex and me prepared a short overview of what we've been working on for the last month or two. And we'd like to have focus on the questions. So we'll go shortly over this content in our docs, what we've prepared for you, for the devs, or anybody who wants to become a dev or is interested. And then we'd like to interact with you, answer your questions, and discuss whatever you guys would like to discuss. So in the Astar Network docs, we have an XCM subchapter where we've documented XCM-related stuff to our network. You can check it out if you're interested. I do hope that you have by now. So what I'd like to focus on here, since this is a dev-oriented presentation, is what do we offer to the devs? So we use an XC20 asset, which an XC20 interface, which will soon expand. But it was initially created by PureStake team. And the idea is to allow interoperability between EVM and substrate frameworks. So what does this mean for you as a dev? For example, when we bridge DOT from Polkadot over to Astar, you can access that asset, same as any ERC20 asset from your EVM smart contract, which is quite great for DEXs and so on. And you can use DOT in your applications. You can also create your own asset. So we offer this functionality via Palette Assets. And we can make this asset to be cross-chain asset. So what does it mean? What does this mean for you? You create an asset, any asset that you want, and you can send that asset to other networks with a little bit configuration from our side, but you can always talk to us about that. So same as you do with DOT, if you know about that by now, you can do with any asset that you create. And here you can find examples which Martin was very kind to prepare on how to prepare asset, etc., and how to access these assets. In the docs, you can also find an example with dApp, which uses XC20 interface. So, okay, we're not using DOT here, we're using KSM, but basically this code example shows how your smart contract, how your Solidity smart contract can interact with cross-chain assets like KSM, like DOT. I don't know, from yesterday, you can even use assets from Karura and so on. Soon there will be much more. And yeah, here are some examples with explanations how to use this. And also Hun, who I guess you all know, or most of you know him, also prepared an example how client applications can make use of XCM in TypeScript. So you can check this out to see if you can maybe create an application which can make use of XCM features from your client side. And this is basically everything that I wanted to cover. I don't want to talk too much, and I'd rather focus on the questions. So I guess, Alex, if you have something more to add or say.
Well, I don't know if Alex heard you or not. Let us, Alex, anytime you like, you can jump in. But I think we can start with some questions here. Dino, do you see the questions, or do you want me to go to go over them?
I can see them.
Okay.
I guess I can start with the first one from Tomasz. And Alex, feel free, if you could hear me, to jump in anytime if you want to answer or add something. So the first question is, could you explain existential deposit in EVM mode? So I believe this relates to the issue people had where they couldn't receive cross-chain assets if their EVM contract or account didn't contain any assets. And this is a technical thing. Basically, the assets that are used to represent cross-chain asset is a special module in our runtime. And previously, it was configured for, let's say, KSM and DOT to require the substrate account, or we could also say EVM account, to have existential deposit in native currency. Otherwise, the account could not receive this foreign asset. So this isn't particularly related to XCM, but it's how pellet assets works in general. You need to have existential deposit unless asset is configured to be sufficient. If it's configured to be sufficient, then your account can receive, let's say, KSM without having SDN at all, like zero. I don't know if this answers your question, but importantly, we've identified this as an issue, of course, and since we want to treat KSM, DOT, I guess, Karura, AUSD, and so on, I'm mentioning these since these are integrated, we want to treat them almost as equal to Astar or Shiden on our networks. We've decided to make this sufficient. So it will no longer be required to have an existential deposit EVM to have, I don't know, to receive KSM or DOT or any of the aforementioned assets. So does this answer your question?
That's pretty good point, Dino. Thank you. Really, many developers have a trouble with EVM because the substrate requires an account to exist on chain to have a deposit, and many users can't get cross-chain assets, and all interaction is a chain without existential deposits. But right now we are introducing an opportunity to have an assets, XC20 for accounts that have no existential deposit. They still require us to have a native assets for any manipulation, but they could get it on balance, the same as ERC20, without having a native token on balance. Yeah, that's probably covers the question.
Okay, thanks. I guess, Tomasz, if you're listening, if you have more questions, just pop another one if we weren't clear enough. So maybe we can move to the second question. Ivan,
Sure.
Are you okay with that?
Yeah. Let's go.
So the second one is when will the bridge back to Polkadot be available? So I guess this means when will I be able to send dots back to Polkadot? The bridge or the channel is opened by default. So this was available for some time, but we didn't support the transfer of dot back to Polkadot. So why? We supported it on our testnet, and we also support it on Shiden, but we have a release cycle where we first deploy on Shibuya, which is our testnet, then we deploy on Shiden when we see it stable on Shibuya, and then at the end we deploy on Astar when we see it stable on Shiden. So this doesn't answer your question, but in the backend, this is available right now, and via front end, maybe it's already available or it will be available during today or tomorrow.
Yeah, actually, because the question is maybe not clear in terms of on which level should it be, do you expect it to be available? But yeah, as Dino said, it is, if you go through Polkadot.js, you can do it right away. Or if you want to program around it, you can do it right away. And if it's a matter of clicking through our portal, it should be available any day now.
Just one disclaimer, if I'd suggest not to do it via Polkadot.js unless you really, really know what you're doing. just so you don't lose dots. Yeah.
Yeah, first test it on Shiden or on Shibuya.
Okay. I guess that also answers the second question. I think even you as the admin can mark them as answered.
Yeah, I don't know if I can really mark them as answered. It's not something I'm not sure I know how to do it.
Okay, okay.
I can, yeah, but there are not that many ones, so we can jump to the third one now.
Sure. So for this one, I'll let Alex answer, since it's his grand feature. So how will dApps with two virtual machines work in terms of user interface? Will it be possible to use just one wallet for all transactions?
Yeah, that's a very good question. And we already thinking about it more than 1 year, and it's on active development right now. This feature have name XCross virtual machine, and in case of user interface, it will looks like a consistent dApp which interact as a different virtual machine on one chain, but internally it looks pretty difficult. And for what about a wallet? A user definitely should choose what kind of wallet they wanted to use, because we're talking about EVM. They have one specific format for addresses and cryptography. In case of WASM virtual machine, it's also a different one, and probably user will have an option, but interaction between a different virtual machine will be as smooth as it's possible. As right now, XC20 looks like a way for a cross-virtual machine communication if we're talking about an assets transfer, like you have right now EVM and a native abstraction for the same assets, like a dot. XC20 Rapid Dot is a cross-chain transferable assets, is also available on EVM and planned to be available on WASM contract, which is good. And for end user, it will looks like they just have an assets and could use it in a different virtual machine, just a transfer between internal accounts. Probably that's it. The user will have a different wallets, but it will be possible to interact between different virtual machines in one chain.
Thanks, Alex. DeFi guy, please give a comment if you have a sub question or a comment on this answer while we're on it. Feel free. I hope it answers your question. Okay. I just learned how to manage the questions. So when we start answering a question, I can click the Start Answering button, and then I suppose Crowdcast will map it in the timeline. So I'll click Done Answering for this question now before we move to the next one. While we were preparing for the session, we actually asked ourselves some questions, or actually discussed what would we assume would be an interesting question from a developer point of view. So while waiting for more of your questions, I just put one here to discuss, and it's about the XC20s and how do you use them in context of other parachains. So Dino or Alex, who would like to comment on this one?
I could answer.
Sure, do it.
Yeah, we were talking about XC20. That's by design a cross-chain transferable assets. But if we create it from a zero, like a general user, we still requires to process it on a governance level to make it transferable to other parachain. That's mean on Astar, you requires to ask a team for now or in near future to process a governance motion to make XC20 transferable to a different parachains. That means assign it allocation and make additional option for it. We have a specific palette for that operation, and that's not that difficult as it looks. Yeah, definitely you should negotiate on a parachain recipient who will get that your asset like it register it on Karura, for example. But Anas already have a channel with Karura, and you don't need to do it. You just need to create an assets in Karura and process a governance level motion to make it available. Yeah, that's it. Maybe Dino could improve that answer.
No, I think that was great. I mean, the biggest problem, as you said, not problem, but most work is negotiating with other parachains for them to register the asset that you want to transfer. Our side is quite simple.
Okay, I'll conclude the answering. Here I put another one. I guess every developer is wondering, okay, I want to do something about this, and where do I test my XCM? How do I test it if I develop an XCM powered contract? So, Dino, would you like to answer this one?
Sure. So there are multiple ways, some easier, some more difficult, but basically all the same. So, of course, the obvious answer is test it on Shibuya. Shibuya is our testnet, and we have our own relay chain, which we control, and we've also added common good parachain. So basically, we have our own relay chain with two parachains. One is Shibuya, the other one is, I'll probably say the name incorrectly, but I think it's called Starmine.
That is right.
That is right. Okay, it's Starmine. And you can test it using that. Currently, we don't have Faucet for relay chain assets, which is basically used by the common goods parachain, same as StateMine or Statement, but we'll work on that. If you need to test it, like now, today, just, I don't know, contact somebody from the team on Discord or Telegram, and we can provide you with the funds. Then there's another, we have a Rococo parachain, but this isn't really open to public, and we mostly use it for integration with other parachains. So like opening channels and registering their assets and testing it. For example, we'll open a channel with Akala's Karura testnet there and tested out how Karura transfer works, how, I don't know, LKSM works, and so on. But you could also use that. But since this isn't available to public, you would again have to contact us to test it. And the third way, probably requires most technical knowledge, is to run locally your relay chain and parachains and configure everything to be as you want. But this requires a bit more technical knowledge. But anyhow, reach out if it's not clear how you should test it. So ask us. Alex, if you want to add something, please jump in.
Yeah, that's pretty clear. And last point, I guess it should be covered in our documentation how to use a Polkadot launch, and we have a configuration and fully support local instances. You don't need to launch a relay chain, a collator, set up it from scratch. You just need to run a script. This same Polkadot launch, and everything will up and ready for work. That's not that scary.
Thanks, Alex. And Dino? Hello, Exodus. I put a couple of more questions. Oh, DeFi guy, let's answer your one. So the question is, how Astar can reduce the block time, or it's only possible with Polkadot update with unsynchronized backing? This is a...
Yeah, that's a good question. I probably get it. Yeah, you're right. I think backing for Polkadot introduced soon, and we plan to adopt it as soon as it's available. And then we'll have about 6 seconds for a block. That's a minimum that could be used in Polkadot right now. But we really hope that Polkadot guys, especially Parity, will improve their consensus and provide opportunity for Parachain to include more blocks, especially a block time, to make a bandwidth of Parachain much more huge as we have now. But yeah, the first step is unsync backing and a 6 second per block for a Shiden and then Astar. Yeah, that's it.
Thanks. There are two more questions from our list of the ones interested.
I think you can skip the first one. I think we already answered that.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah,
you mean
that was the first question we answered.
But actually, we were talking about transferring to other parachains at that time. I think this is about the existential. Sorry, about Tom. It was Tomasz's question. Yeah, I'm sorry. You're right. So scroll back to the beginning of the video to get the answer for this one. It's the same as Tomasz's question. Thanks. Ooh, and this one is maybe there is no proper answer to this question, but to be to be more specific, yeah, how can I guess it would be the question about XCM fees and how to manage, what to expect about them. They seem quite you cannot easily estimate what's going on there.
Probably the first one is, I guess not many developers know that XCM consume some fees, but let's require it. And if you wanted to transfer something through XCM, you should know that it's not free and you should pay. And that's a big question, what currency you'll use for paying fees because it's a cross-chain transfer, and you probably will pay fee for execution on a parachain who send a message, but you also should pay a fee for a parachain who receive a message, and that's more about an execution fees for a parachain who will get a message. Let's see a situation when you wanted to transfer Kusama from a Shiden to relay chain. In that case, you will pay fees on a sender in a Shiden token, and then a message will deliver. The fee will consume from your transferred KSM. That means you will get less than you sent, unfortunately, but it's how XCM works. And if we look in more complex example, like you transfer a USD from Astar to Akala, and then you should pay in Astar. Also, you should somehow negotiate a fee for Akala, but you transfer not in native assets, and that's how to UI should deal with it. We hope to help developers as it possible from UI side, but that's really will be a pain for future dApp developers to deal with fees on XCM. We'll hope to provide as more documentation as possible for that question, but keep attention to it. Yeah, that's it from my side. Maybe Dino could improve it a little bit.
Sure, that was, I mean, I can't improve it. I can just add on it that this really differs from Parachain to Parachain. So we will calculate it differently, and let's say if you're sending to Karura, it will calculate it differently. And it also, I mean, it's deterministic, of course. You can know exactly how much it will be. And it's also worth mentioning that the example that Alex said is good. So let's say that you send a USD back from Shiden to Karura, and then you can pay the fee in AUSD. Why? Because Karura supports payment in AUSD. But if, I don't know, Karura tries to send Astar some custom asset created by some user, like a permissionless asset, then it doesn't mean that Astar will support payment in that asset. So these things need to be negotiated between parachains. You cannot just create any asset, like some shitcoin, and send it and use it to pay asset. The chain needs to support payment in that asset. So that's one, I'd say, important aspect of whole payment thing.
Yeah, right. Dino, in that case, you should attach a pair. The first is a payload asset, what you want to transfer. The second one is a fee asset, which you'll use just for pay fees. That's important to know, but maybe not for now, in the coming future when the dApp will use widely the XCM transfer.
Yeah, I will just add on to this. There is a slide with all the links about all the resources that we offer for related to XCM, and one of them is our documentation page, and there for sure is a maintained list of you will find a list of assets that we recognize as a, how to say, I wouldn't say legit answers, legit assets, but the assets recognized as not permissionless, but based on projects or from other parachains. And that page will manage information about what is accepted as payment as well in the documentation. So you will have the chance to check there all this information that Dino just commented. So there's going to be a way to learn what can be accepted as payment on our chain. And as well, of course, checking the chain state through calling related functions. Oh, great. So I guess what Kaori just asked is similar to this. And I guess this one-page cheat sheet is something that we will implement in the documentation, right? So I'll unless Dino or Alex, you want to comment something else on this add-on.
Yeah, that's a good point to have a cheat sheet here, because it's really a topic should be covered in the documentation.
Okay.
Yeah, we can add it, and it'd be great. And I'm pretty sure we'll have this, since Alex mentioned something similar, is to have like how much it costs to execute on other parachains. So let's say some other parachain supports Astar, you should be able to know how much you will pay for execution there, and these things can be calculated. Same as how much you will need to pay for execution in foreign asset on Astar or Shiden. All the numbers are already available basically on chain. They just need to be crunched a bit and displayed in a pretty format, human readable format.
Great. Okay, there is one. Well, I guess it's a I don't know. I don't know if there's a definite answer to these questions. I'm talking about the ones in terms of security. Can we assume that XCM transfers are safer than IBC or the current centralized bridges?
That's a good
Alex,
question. And yeah, let me try to cover it a bit. And Dino, feel free to add some. Yeah, if we're talking about XCM and IBC, it's pretty different conception. And XCM is something that live inside of Polkadot and is supported on relay chain and also supported from Parachain because the Parachain depend of relay chain. In general, all consensus and all security provided by relay chain, and everything have the same level of security here. But in case of IBC, a Cosmos is a thing that's live separately. It's each chain in Cosmos have their own consensus and their own security validator, and it's pretty isolated. But one thing that connects it in one network is inter-blockchain communication, and IBC here have a lowest security that a lowest security chain has, because in case of a consensus security, they have a different level, and we just get a lowest one, and in that case, that connection will have a lowest security. But that's difficult to compare a Polkadot security level and a Cosmos ecosystem, because it's the Cosmos is a wide thing, and we don't know how to compare it pretty much. But if you're talking about centralized bridges, yeah, currently we have at least two kind of bridges. The first one is trustless, which have a great approach and have no question to it. But if we're talking about centralized bridge, it is definitely a Polkadot consensus is the most expensive that we have in a centralized bridge ecosystem, because a Polkadot have many hundreds of validator and independent nodes, but in case of centralized bridge, is usually have 10, 20. That's not so much, and that's a different question. How secure is it? But that's not that strong as a centralized networks. Yeah, I hope I cover it a bit.
Yeah, thanks, Alex. As I said, this one is a tough one. It's far more than yes or no. So yeah, thanks. Thank you, Aru, for the commandments. But I guess this is not something a question for answering. I see. Well, we're almost. We kind of expected to have this session lasting for not more than 45 minutes, probably. So we're actually getting closer to the end. I will ask this final question about sending NFTs over XCM. Can you do that? Alex, do you want to answer this one and conclude the session with this?
Answering a lot. Okay. Yeah, NFT is a hype, and it's really a plan to introduce a third version of XCM, and definitely will support it as soon as it a standard. But right now, unfortunately, it's impossible to use an NFT transfer through a cross-chain messaging. But we're looking forward to it, and yeah. As a draft, it looks the same as we have an assets a palette, but for NFT, Polkadot and Substrate provide a different kind of palette for storing NFT. You could probably see it on a state mine, state mint, and the third version of XCM will provide an opportunity to transfer it out of a state mine, state mint, and looking forward to use it. Yeah.
Thanks. Okay, I think we exhausted the questions. Thanks for the questions. DeFi guy, thank you for several quality questions. Appreciate that. I think it was interesting for everybody to listen to those answers. I will share my screen once again because for the last 2 slides we have, and as I said, it's about links to places where you can get additional support on XCM or any other developer-related thing on Astar. So check out the documentation. We have dedicated channels on Discord for dev support. Hopefully, and we plan to have many fireside chats on different topics. And we're using Crowdcast, so there's a reference afterwards for everybody to come back and recheck if anything is needed. And also check out our YouTube channel. There are some great videos especially about using XCM on Astar, particularly from the portal side. The last thing, whoever survived, I just wanted to comment that we are hiring in our core dev team. So if you like what we do and maybe are open for any of these positions, feel free to reach out and share your CV. We need more people on our dev team, so here it is, take into consideration. Yeah, this is basically it for today. Once again, thank you everybody for coming. Many thanks for Dino and Alex for participating in this first session and sharing, giving the answers. And I don't know, Dino and Alex, do you want to, any last comments from your side?
Happy to see a lot of participants in the first event. Looking forward to the next one.
Great.
Yes, I agree. Thanks a lot for the questions and for coming and listening and asking and participating.
Yeah. Okay, if not here, see you on Discord or see you. Yeah, I guess interaction is on Discord and here for sure. Thanks again, and see you on the next Fireside Chat in 2 weeks.